welcome again to you all. Thank you for joining us this evening for our summer party and this panel discussion on the art of outdoor living and designing outdoor kitchens. Let me introduce you all again to everyone. My name is Lindsay Blair. I'm a freelance editor and writer working in the home design kitchen and bathroom space. Next to me I have Sinead Turnbull, who is the MD of Alfresco Kitchens. Ryan, who we have just heard from, hello again. Hello. And Claudia Bamatine, who is Design Sales Manager at Cosentino, and here to talk all things decked on this evening. We will have time at the end for questions, so please do get involved. We'll make sure to leave plenty of time to answer as many as possible. But for now, let's just get going. I wanted to start by talking about this concept of outdoor space activation, and it's something that I've heard Ryan talk about in quite a lot of detail, and it's so interesting because it totally flips on its head the concept that we in the UK think of an outdoor kitchen. And you touched on this in your presentation, but I just want to delve a bit deeper into the activation of an outdoor space. What do you mean by that?
I mean a few things. I mean a space that is very mindfully envisioned and executed in the same way as someone would think about any indoor footage. That is has greater opportunity for design, aesthetic, cohesion, meaning to the family or the user, and really thought of as an outdoor room versus leftover. It's just a balcony, it's just a roof, it's just a terrace. It's a room if you treat it like that, and can be utilized and enjoyed in very large amounts of time and with great quality.
I think we flippantly use the term barbecue area, quote unquote, because that is what we tend to think about in this country. But it's so much more than that. You only have to look around to see that, and I encourage anyone to just get involved and get into the drawers and open the cupboards, because the level of detail is extraordinary. So it's so clear when you do that it's about so much more than the kitchen, and how it's designed is so in depth to a lifestyle and entertaining. And Sinead, I know you feel very strongly about how it's designed. It's not just a unit with a barbecue on it. So do you want to just talk us through the process of creating an outdoor kitchen?
Sure. So it's very similar to, or in fact the same as designing an indoor kitchen. So a lot of people just think it's going to be shelving. I just need somewhere to put my barbecue on and just hide my, my coals and a few utensils. It's not that at all. So we work very closely with a lot of design professionals, architects, landscape gardeners, in designing the outdoor kitchen area in exactly the same way as an architect would design an indoor kitchen. And the space we go through, we work very closely with tradespeople to plan all the services. And essentially we do the design to the detail we would do an indoor kitchen. So it's, I think, to Ryan's point earlier, the kitchen outdoors, it's exactly that. And I don't think very many people have, there's an awareness, I think, that we need to get out there that these products exist and what we actually mean by an outdoor kitchen, because the term gets bandied around a lot and has been in the last year or so. It's a very, very trendy kind of thing at the moment, and but what a lot of people mean, it's not what we would class as an outdoor kitchen. It's not this.
Yeah. And then you talk about the lifestyle element, and I've heard you mention about an outdoor kitchen that doesn't actually have a grill in it, sometimes, which might come as a surprise to some of you, but that's because it is so much more than that. It's about the lifestyle.
Exactly, and a lot of people are coming in, they're looking for the kitchen, but they're not necessarily, as I think Ryan as well alluded to, it's not about the grilling, we've kind of moved past that, I think. So it's more around the outdoor entertaining element, and as you say, it's about investing in that lifestyle that people want to make use of their outdoor space, and they want to do it in a really nice way, and they want it to be really stylish. They want people to be coming around and going, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. And also people spending when we do have a nice summer's day, people want to spend all their time outside. They don't want to keep having to traipse inside and things. So it's just having all of your, using your space in a practical way as well.
It's really interesting to me because I talk to a lot of homeowners and designers, and a lot of homeowners will say, I want to do a kitchen indoors because I love to entertain and I want an entertaining space. And that is probably in the top 3 reasons of why people want to do an indoor kitchen. And then, you know, they then realise afterwards, oh, actually, we need the outdoor space. But thinking about it in tandem is so important from the get-go, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we're seeing as well more and more, a lot of architects, when they are doing the indoor space, are actually now carving out, and making sure that within all of the plans and the budgets and the planning permissions, etc., it includes the outside space as much as the indoor. So yeah, we're certainly seeing, we're getting involved and we're getting requests to get involved much earlier on in the process, which is great. So we can plan everything and we can actually deliver a really good project with, as I say, all the services, and we produce all of the design plans and the drawings, the M&E, in the same way as we would an indoor kitchen as well.
How important is it to get you guys on board from the outset of the project?
Very important. I mean, it's again, you know, talking about the kitchen outdoors, nobody thinks twice about coming to talk to us when they're starting a new house development. They're getting all of their costs involved. They assign an architect, they assign, you know, the interior designer, etc. And we need to be assigned in exactly the same way. So we can work with all the tradespeople, and then we can start advising, you know, best way. And, depending on how they want to actually entertain outside, we can then certainly guide, you know, and suggest and come together with a design that works for the rest of their space.
Yeah, and then just going back to the idea of, you know, what consumers want, because that's sort of the field that I work a lot in, is, you know, they want if they're extending, for example, they want the glazing, they want the through view from their front door through to their kitchen and then through to the garden. And obviously that takes a lot of planning. But then a lot of the time people run out of money, or the garden isn't even thought about until phase 2 perhaps. So what can, you know, from a design perspective, how can that through view be carried on into the outdoors? I want to take that one, Ryan.
I think that one of the keys, and Sinead mentioned it, was the bringing the idea of kitchen, whether that's cooking, entertaining, and meaning, and removing the I work with one firm for indoor and somebody else for outdoor, and those two are disconnected and not talking to one another. There is a functional and aesthetic relationship that exists between the indoor and the outdoor. So even if there is a delay in phasing, which happens all the time, whether it's delays, budgets, people are fed up, there's a whole bunch of reasons I may delay the outdoors by 2 years. And I'm practical enough to realize an indoor kitchen is a need, an outdoor kitchen is a want. It's just the factual reality of it. But there's so much value that can be added of putting your water lines, your gas lines, having an idea of where things are going to go, even if you're only going to implement down the road, having the vision for the totality of the space at the onset, and that's the value that's added here.
And Claudia, from a materials perspective, that's something that you're really keen on, isn't it? That through view and that continuity from indoors throughout.
Yeah. I mean, I think the beauty of that conscious design is that it doesn't have to be separated. And when you are then thinking about materialities in more depth about the whole picture, and you are looking at products like Decton that can run indoor, outdoor, and they can be woven into various different elements, whether that is, you know, the countertops that you're seeing here, the paneling that Ryan's mentioned, and that we're launching later this year. You've also got flooring, you've got wall paddings, you've got lots of different elements that can create a dialogue with the indoor. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same flooring running indoor to outdoor, or the same countertop or worktop between the two spaces. But you can have a dialogue there, whether it's just in an accent or the layering of a material with different colorways. There are lots of different ways that you can achieve that. And it helps us to blur that line a little bit and to make that space that much more inviting, because it just feels like an extension of the top area.
And of course, Decton can be used indoors and out and applied to many different surfaces.
Exactly. I mean, with Decton and Cosentino as a company, we have a number of our own brands, but Decton, for me, and I think I can speak for a number of people, not just myself at Cosentino, but Decton really is the champion brand as such, in that it's just the specifier's imagination that's essentially the limit of where it can be applied. There will be technical limitations in maybe the one area is curved surface or something like that. But if it's a surface and it needs cladding, or whatever form that might take, it can be cladded Decton. And the performance will adapt to that as well. It's not, I think sometimes with my clients, there's kind of a where's the catch? Where does the material, where does it fall down? In that it can be applicable to everything, that's not realistic. But I think it's made in a way that it does allow that versatility. So you have different thicknesses available. You have different surface finishes, and that then allows it to adapt.
I think that brings us on nicely to talk about material superiority, which is a huge factor when we come to design outdoor spaces, because it has to withstand the weather, heat, cold, etc. And that's something, Sinead, I think I'll come back to you to talk a little bit about that, because the finishes available, and Ryan, you can chip in with this as well. It's marine grey, it's plywood, it's powder coated aluminium. They're all very, very sophisticated materials to withstand
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
environment.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think, you would never put your indoor kitchen outside, it would last probably 5 minutes in our weather. So absolutely, the materials used are, these, the urban bonfire marine coated aluminium, absolutely, and they're designed to withstand all of the elements, completely weatherproof. Not 100% waterproof. I don't think anything is ever 100% waterproof. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, and obviously the material is very important for outdoor kitchens. Yeah, the longevity.
Ryan, how important would you say? I mean, it's obviously very important to think about material superiority. Have you got anything to add?
It comes down to the level of discipline. That's the discipline that myself and my team have. It's the rule that we can't break, is that anything can look beautiful in a showroom, anything. But we have a commitment, and the discipline is saying we will not make something out of a material that we know is not going to last. And it's not just heat, cold. One of the biggest factors is the effect of salt that comes off of the ocean. That is worse than snow and ice and sun, and there's a level of responsibility that comes with it. And that that is what guides our decisions on what we do, and more importantly, what we don't do. And there's a lot that we don't, because we can't confidently stand behind that it's going to last.
How have you got to the point now where you offer materials that you do? Has there been, you mentioned in your presentation, there's been many mistakes along the way. Can you share some of your material mistakes that you learned?
Sure.
Actually, that doesn't really work.
When I started the company, we were manufacturing our cabinetry in stainless steel because everybody else was. That was the outdoor material. All the grills are made in stainless steel. It was the material. And what I realized in that was that if you look at the highest end luxury outdoor furniture, it's made from, and everyone's gonna laugh. I've been trying for a few days to get the aluminum, and I remember saying aluminum, so you'll forgive me. I've been trying for 3 days. Cars, boats are all using this material with the powder coating composition, and what we saw was, because we were focusing on the design community, everybody wanted color and powder coating. So if you are powder coating stainless steel, you're foregoing the aesthetic of it anyway. The other thing about aluminum, is that it has the advantage of being lighter in weight than its stainless steel counterpart, and that it is malleable during an installation. So it can be drilled or moved. So for all of these reasons, from just adaptation to learning, we made the change and never looked back. It's just, from my perspective, for outdoor cabinetry, it is the optimal material. And we continue to improve. A short story, we had installed a kitchen on the 43rd floor of a condominium tower in downtown Toronto. Now, when you're on the 43rd floor, you're dealing with very, very heavy winds. The doors were rattling with the winds, they would come through. We created a high pressure magnet for that retrofit on that kitchen. It's now a standard feature on every one of our doors. So I make my team crazy. I pity them, but I will never be satisfied. There's always improvement to be made, and I'm never done. So that's my commitment for my own personal journey, is delivering the best that I possibly can.
Really good. And then, Claudia, from your perspective, work surfaces or whatever application we can use with Decton, when we think about indoors worktops, it's encouraged to invest in worktops because they see frequent use, and that's exactly the same principle outdoors, isn't it? And the ultra compact stone that is Decton is so resilient and so durable.
Yeah, so I think actually, kind of in a converse way, for us it's not the opposite, but the product does have the same performance indoor and outdoor. The fact that it performs and maintains all technical performance outdoors is just an added bonus to what we're able to do, and so then that allows you sort of you have variety in that you're never going to be compromising on that element, irrespective of whether you choose, and we've chatted about this a little bit before, maybe you choose something that's older inside and the exact same material, and outdoors you can carry that technical, practical element of the product, and then that goes hand in hand with the aesthetics of it as well. So there's a beauty in that, and perhaps, the investment indoors might be higher, so you might go for actually different types of surfaces from our own same range, but you can have that consistency actually, and the technical performance lends itself to those spaces.
I guess if we come back to the idea that typically people do their indoor kitchen first. I know that we want to change that, absolutely. But if they put Decton inside, then absolute bonus that when they do come to their kitchen outdoors, then they can use it.
100%, and in a way, it's a lovely entry level when you have it maybe indoors, because it will only, once you've come around to realizing what the performance can be, then transporting it outdoors will only elevate that experience even further. Because truly, and Ryan has mentioned this previously, but Decton as a brand, in theory, we pitch ourselves as well as being a facade product first and foremost. And so that durability really, if there's any context where it's going to be performing at its best, it's outdoors. With the abrasion resistance, with the extreme weather, with all of those things. Yeah.
May I add one small piece? The single, in my humble experience, the single greatest flaw or mistake historically in outdoor kitchen design has been lacking countertop space. What you are seeing around here, these displays and vignettes, this is a unicorn. Most retailers of outdoor cooking equipment are driven by shoving a grill and a fridge and a pizza oven and a burner and a smoker into 8 feet. And you don't have enough counter space for a chopstick. And that, you might as well not do it. It is going to be a very, very poor experience for the homeowner and the user. Everything outdoors is bigger. The appliances are bigger, the tongs are bigger, the plates are bigger. You need sufficient worktop. Got it? Worktop space. Got it, I'm learning. And that is, I would say, that is the last area to compromise in an outdoor kitchen design. It's so fundamentally important.
No, it's a really important point, because there's nothing more annoying than not having enough worktop space and you're trying to juggle all your platters of whatever you're serving. Now I want to come on to the topic of cost, and Sinead, I'm going to come to you. All the things we talked about, the materials, the high grade of everything that we put in there, the possibilities of creating an outdoor kitchen that is just as thought through as an indoor kitchen. That all comes with a cost, doesn't it? And actually it could come at a higher cost than an indoor kitchen.
Yeah. So typically, we advise people, you're looking at sort of upwards of 25,000 for an outdoor kitchen with your appliances, and up to in excess of, you could get into the hundreds depending on the types of appliances. If you went for a Kalamazoo, if you were, the size, the finishes, the worktop, you can get some beautiful waterfall bar overhangs, etc. it's the design sort of components are quite endless, really. So, but yeah, a lot of people are like sort of shocked, but you know, back to the point where you would never put your indoor kitchen outside. These outdoor kitchens are built, and obviously will come with the price tag for the workmanship that's been put in to make sure that these kitchens can withstand many years of use and many years of extreme weather, hot and cold, snow, rain.
So I think it's an important point to get across, you know, so that that it comes down to just the high quality and the research that has gone into creating these materials that are suited to the environment. And then also just go back to the point about doing a project indoors and outdoors in tandem. Could that actually have cost benefits, you know, because of the means and the trades that you already might have on site?
Yeah, potentially. And actually just sort of coming back to the workshop as well, you know, if you're, a lot of people like to have that continuity, sort of the indoors and outdoors, and actually, you know, in terms of slabs required, you know, there's probably cost efficiencies if you're going with the same design of decked on, then you know, you're doing it all at the same time. Then you've got your template and fitting all done at the same time. So yeah, absolutely. There's definitely it's if you're able to plan the whole project at the same time, absolutely, yeah.
I want to talk about the weather again, because I know we brought it up a lot, but it wouldn't be British of us to not talk about the weather. But one of the hurdles I see from my perspective is that people think we only barbecue for 2 weeks of the year, if we're lucky. And the whole concept of creating a kitchen outdoors is to use it year round. So from a design perspective, what can we do? How can we serve our clients by creating spaces that are suitable for year round and that they will actually use year round, rather than it being a sort of mythical, so I will, but actually you don't end up doing it.
I mean, I think in terms of, we've talked about obviously that the kitchens are designed to be left outside. They don't need to be covered. So you don't need to, you can cover your grill if you want to. It's us that want to cover. So in terms of having a pergola, for example, shown here, great for utilising your space all year round, especially, you know, coming into winter, you've got screens, heating, lighting, everything. There's endless options to be able to create that space so that you can enjoy it, and it's more about having, you know, the space outside to do that. But yeah, I mean.
And Ryan, is it the lifestyle? And I guess, you know, you have much worse weather than we do in terms of extreme temperatures. Is it a mindset shift? Is it about, you know, talking to people about the lifestyle that you know, in your presentation talked about being outdoors and the benefits of being outdoors?
It certainly is a quality over quantity discussion. And a very simple parallel, if you were to use the same example, if there's only 3 months or 4 months of whatever available usage time, that is factually the case for most people. But if you could use the same argument, if you use that psychology, no one would ever buy a convertible car in Canada. Golf courses would not exist. There are a number of things that are weather dependent, and people invest tremendous resources because they're areas of passion and enjoyment for them. It's quite similar. The other piece, if I can circle back on, because you mentioned on the economic side, interestingly, when you look at the price of the kitchen at the $25,000 average that Sinead mentioned, that is factually true. But if you zoom out just one little bit and focus on the room that it is in North America, outdoor space activation comes in at about 40 cents on the dollar to the indoor equivalent. So maybe the kitchen is $25,000, but the actual room, whether it's 10 by 10, 50, is going to cost significantly less to activate and turn into a room than the indoor equivalent. The other interesting piece, looking around at the kitchens, this is furniture. An indoor kitchen, in most cases, I know there are some that people can take with them, it's extremely rare. The kitchen that's behind us, in 2 hours, this is on a moving truck and going somewhere. So the investment that's being made can certainly be carried forward, and that's a very important piece to the consumer in the realization it's an investment that can carry forward with them.
I want to pick up on something that you mentioned there, because the space element of it. We're not all blessed with sprawling spaces, particularly in urban areas, but actually you don't need lots and lots of space to have a successful outdoor kitchen. You mentioned balconies earlier as an example, or the rooftops, or even just a small terrace garden.
25% of the kitchens that we manufacture are smaller than 8 feet. It's about thoughtful design, it's about the right amount of space for the right amount of usage, and it's also about, especially in North America, or in the US, where people think grills need to be the size of a Range Rover. You don't really need that amount of space. You can do things it's a more changing mindset, but people in these urban environments do not want to compromise on their experiences.
And then from just a practical perspective, there are things that you need to consider, like the weight. If you're putting the kitchen on a balcony, you need to think about the weight of that, right?
You do? Yes.
So how do these products, how do they fit into that scenario?
That's one of the other advantages of an aluminum product is its weight is actually very, very light for the amount of size that it occupies. Our cabinetry comes in at about 21 pounds per square foot. So weight engineers and mechanical engineers find it very well formed. And also when you apply the Decton, which is going to be the bulk of the weight along with the appliance, it's very evenly spread. You don't have these sort of very large amounts of weight that are concentrated in one place.
Are there any other sort of, that sort of nitty-gritty practical things to think about when you're designing a small space kitchen outdoors?
Prevailing winds are a big feature. As you're looking at spaces, if you have a grill that you enjoy cooking on, it's smoking and prevailing winds are going right towards your open patio door, you may want to rethink and put wind shade, for example, and things like that. Those are the types of things that we try to consider in the placement of the kitchen within its context of the home.
Interesting. Now, before I come to you guys for your questions, I want to just talk briefly about trends. I think that's always an interesting thing to think about. So, Claudia, I'm going to come to you from a worktop or surface trends perspective. We've briefly talked about, there's a trend for indoors to have more statement surfaces, heavy bin, etc., etc. What sort of trends are you seeing for outdoor applications?
I do think, and this is from my own experience, anyone could have a different sort of perspective, so absolutely as it is in the design world, but I personally find that within that outdoor context there is more of an inclination towards that earthier palette. We see it with some of the colours that we're surrounded by, and it is that idea potentially that it goes alongside its context. So whether that's the vegetation or there's a lot of natural sort of stones or whatever it might be around that, it's this idea that something's even coming out of the earth. In terms of the top, it's that very natural feeling. Now, we have a whole range of materials that are specifically designed to replicate that. And that's even from the texture, which, for example, this collection here, the Coat, the whole idea is that it's got a feeling of natural product, and that it has that earthier to it. So I personally feel that the demand that I get for kitchens, and even in this country where you don't necessarily have the sunshine that we have in our factory in Spain, all these types of things. There is that neutral palette in the outdoors, earthy textures and that type of thing.
Interesting. I think that's actually translating inside now, isn't it? People do want that earthy, organic sort of feel, and lots of plants, and the palette is very earthy, as you say, indoors now. So there's certainly a trend for that. And from the furniture perspective, are there any trends that you are specifically seeing? And I'm particularly interested in whether you're seeing any from North America to the UK, or even vice versa.
I first presented our product last fall at a designer conference in Spain, and I was quite impressed and surprised at the design community's reaction to our handles. In North America, bigger, more brass, and we were told, no, you need to do something very, I don't want to see a handle, so that was part of the redesign. I'm learning so much because there is very interesting nuance in the way aesthetics are happening. I like the fact that I get to play with both and mix and match, and it makes it very, very fun for me.
I think as you touched on in the autumn, the launch of the Decton Urban Bonfire collaboration with those fluted facade, that's really interesting to me because that is, I think, a direct sort of trend piece. You know, the fluted is massive for indoor interior design throughout the home. So to see that outdoors is a really interesting move.
It's really fun.
Yeah, that's really nice. Sinead, any trends from you, or what are you seeing, what are you predicting?
I think Brian's just touched on it, and certainly handles. So we were very obviously thrilled to be partnering with Urban Bonfire, but also because we've got a handled kitchen. So it's typically been the last few years handleless, and we've actually started, even on the indoor kitchen side, actually we've started seeing more people coming back in asking for handles. So certainly. Handles is one, and agreeing with I agree with you, Claudia. The earthy tone, so people want it quite neutral. They don't want the investment to date, but I think there's a lot you can do with a really nice worktop and a slightly more pared back actual furniture. So that's typically what we see.